You know what they say that, the breakthroughs in life, when we have epiphanies about things and we can make changes in our lives that are meaningful, they have to happen. And they're only authentic breakthroughs when you do them out of breaking down. That you have to come to this place psychologically where, it's almost chaotic, like a chaos kind of a thing. So you can almost see this, all the social injustices that are continuing to happen, the crazy election going on, this crazy election year, and of course the pandemic. All of this is, almost like a symptom of what has to happen to all of us collectively, human scale, So if you're not insane, it's almost like you're not paying attention, Picture these two cages, and there are two gerbils, and one is pictured running frantically, frenetically, very exasperated, sweat coming off, just this look of worry and effort, and it's just running, right? The hamster wheel of life, right? And then in the other side, the other picture, that hamster in that cage also has a wheel, but the wheel is still, it's not moving. And the hamster is lying in the bottom of the wheel like it's a hammock, it's like back is up, the feet are up there, and the head is back, just laying there. And there's a big word bubble over the hamster, or thought bubble over the hamster that's lying, using the wheel as a hammock. And it says, I had an epiphany. And this kind of is also what we were just talking about, if you're feeling a little chaotic or insane, or that there's breakdown, What is it that you need to have an epiphany about? And even, what do you need to let go of? Right? The hamster in the other side was let go of who says that hamsters have to run in wheels? Who made those rules? Going from the very focused into the flexible, into the expansive. And one of the things that I just want to say is, in this time of crazy chaos and breakdown and breakthrough, is that the first approach, the very focused, narrow approach with lots of things to pay attention to, is really a practice that helps you to calm down. Now, it may not seem like it because you feel like the hamster in the wheel, constantly attempting to try something, attempting to put a lot of effort into, what you're doing. So it feels, at least at first, it feels very almost confining, and so there's some tension that you might feel with that. However, in terms of what it's doing to your brain, to your mind, to your brain actually, to the actual structures and the neural pathways, the neural structures of your brain, it's going to help to create a sense of calm and a sense of stability, and it's going to unify the structures in your mind. So remember, going back to, I don't remember what week it was, talking about how it builds the integration, what meditation does in the mind, right? So it's going to integrate the left and the right hemisphere together, growing the corpus callosum between them, right? Also the top of the hemisphere, the cortex, with the middle of the brain, and then the brain stem, the bottom of the brain. It's like I need a brain. Oh, we can use my lizard here. No, he's got the, oh, you know what? And here's something in terms of evolution. My little lizard friend here, except of course he's not really mortal, but and never was, but he has only, or she has only, a brainstem. Their brains are only ours evolutionarily, just are at the bottom of our brain. That's why they're called the reptilian. It's called the reptilian portion, or the reptilian evolution of the human brain. All fascinating stuff, but now I'm digressing way far away from where I wanted to talk, what I wanted to talk about. But anyway, so utilizing the focused approach where you have an anchor and you're constantly returning to the anchor, and letting go of, almost ignoring everything else, putting all that stuff, everything else in the background, is a way of unifying the brain. And it can help you to deal with anxiety. And who amongst us is not feeling anxious these days? You know, even if it's just a wee bit, but most of us are feeling a lot more than a wee bit. And so this is how meditation can help with anxiousness. It can help with lots of things. And it's not just while you're feeling anxious, but practicing it when you're not feeling anxious, I think, is the key there. You know, we always think, oh, I'm going to meditate now because I'm having a panic attack. That's like going to the Olympics to run the marathon, or be run this, or swim the 200 individual medley in the Olympics, and you haven't had a day of practice. Okay, so you have to practice this stuff before the anxiety hits you, if that makes sense. Okay. And then the second thing about anxiety and this model of meditation styles, let's say, is that, and this is probably a less common way of working with anxiety, but it's to have the broader approaches to what you are experiencing, so that you inquire. You know, the middle, the flexible range, and the expansive range in your awareness is going to help you to inquire about, what is it that makes you anxious? You know, so this is a picture of Shiva, you know, and Shiva is one of the mythological gods, if you will, of the Hindu tradition, but Hinduism being something that came a little bit later in terms of yoga. You know, where do you think yoga came from? What part of the world? Let's not forget, this is where it historically existed. But anyway, Shiva is supposed to be sort of like the energy of the universe. I guess you could easily call him that. And you can you see the snake around his neck? Yeah, so if you were to look at pictures of Shiva, a lot statues. In fact, I found one not too long ago, that there's a statue, I think it's in the Bronx. It's huge, of Shiva. I think it was in the Bronx. I could be wrong, but it was in New York City. And anytime you see him, Shiva has a snake around his neck. Shiva, sometimes he has snakes around his wrists. They're like bracelets. So the snake, what does it represent? And even represented back, you know, when yoga was originally being written about. What did it represent? It represents anxiety. The snake, even the serpents, anytime the serpents are written about in the stories, the serpents and the snakes are the representation of human anxiety. That anxiety is something that exists naturally. If you're human, you experience anxiety. It's like a human trait. No one gets away with not feeling anxiety. And if you remember a couple weeks ago too, I talked about it being this, it's the tension, right? The tension that exists even when you're trying to sit with a narrow focus in your meditation and you don't want to. You know, what is that? Not wanting to. You want to get up and go get ice cream. You know, you want to get up and jump up and down. I don't know, whatever it is that you want to go and do. But you don't want to be sitting and paying attention to your breath. Right? So that's the tension. So then when you start to open up into the expansion piece of meditation, you know, you can explore that tension. What is that tension? You know, first of all, you can even feel it in your body. What does it feel like? You know, what is it doing to you? Does it make you feel like you want to jump up and fight? You know, do you have that fight response? Do you have the, you know, jumping out of your skin kind of response? Or do you have a freeze response? You know, do you have a lot of tension in your jaw, in your shoulders, in your neck? You get a lot of headaches? You scrunch up your brows like I do? Tension, anxiety. It's called ahi in Sanskrit. Ahi is the name of the snake. And in the broader focuses of meditation, you can work with ahi. Understand it. When does it arise? When does it? The other day I was doing legs up the wall. You know, that posture that I showed you in practice. I was doing it. And all I wanted to do is get up and go do something else. And it was like, I love legs up the wall. I could live in legs up the wall. It's so calming and relaxing for me. But this particular day, it was not. So I sat with it. I was laid with it with my legs up the wall and tried to figure out, what is it? What's going on here? Why is this becoming a source of anxiety? You know, and then what I kind of figured out is that I have so much to do that it was difficult for me to lay there and do seemingly nothing, right? Not accomplish, you know, everything that's on my to-do list, right? And so once I acknowledged that, though, and I could take a few breaths, it subsided a little bit. The snake went back down into the ground. You know, and this is the thing about anxiety, and other states of being for that matter, but anxiety is a good one for us to talk about right now. So another thing to think about in terms of anxiety too is that, and this is something that helped me a long, long time ago. So what for me I would pay attention to was the fact that it had a beginning. Oh, there it is. You know, anxiety rising. You know, what are the sensations of that beginning? And then it flows into the next moment. It has a middle. It lives. What does it do when it lives? Does it rise? You know, does it sometimes subdue itself? You know, does it get really, 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 really strong? What does it do? Where do you feel it in the body? And how about asking yourself this? What does it feel like when your state of anxiety is just about ready to end? Do you ever notice that? The ending of anxiety? Because it doesn't, you know, we all think this when you're in the midst of a really troubled anxiety state. We think it's going to last forever. We think we're going to die from anxiety. I'm going to just die. You say that to yourself too, right? But it comes to an end. All emotional states come to an end. You know, so you can see it as almost being alive. You know, it has a birth, it travels in time, right? And then it ends. What does it feel like when it ends? And then what is the after state like? What do you feel like what's going on when that anxious state has come to a complete end? Those are things for you to ask yourself. And you can do that in your middle, more flexible and expansive practices, okay? So go ahead and close your eyes. Take a few moments to check in, to settle in. And so we're going to go through the spectrum again on purpose, and then later you'll be able to kind of choose your perspective. But for now, let's start with the concentrated focus. Attention with the breath. One thing that you can do that I haven't mentioned yet is that you can, to help you focus on the breath, you can count the breaths. So each time you experience a full breath, you can just begin counting. Start at 1, go to 10, and start again. Just a quick return to the best of your ability. And you could also use a label. You can say in on the in-breath and out on the out-breath. So then when you're ready, we're going to kind of see your intention here to see where your mind is being drawn to today. We're drawn to different things at different times. And they're all good because we're cultivating awareness around what you are experiencing. Perhaps it can help you to identify where you are feeling scattered today. And as you become more aware of your own state of being, you become your own teacher, providing the practice that you need for yourself. So remember, in the flexible expansion, you're going to remind yourself that there's an anchor, that you can bring yourself back to the breath. But when something else gets your attention, you can go there. You can really notice it. If there are bees buzzing in your chest, you just can't seem to catch a breath, pay attention to it, go there. Don't get sucked in to a narrowness of the experience, but broaden it. Broaden your awareness around the experience. What else is there? I like asking myself that question. Show me, what else? What else should I be paying attention to? What about this experience am I not seeing? Questions like that. Probing questions. And then noticing when your awareness is getting lost in something, what is it getting lost in? You can be aware of it, of that. And you can be aware of, it's so cool, you can be aware of the experience of being lost. See if you can notice what it feels like to be lost in thought. And then when you stop on the path, pause and you see it. Notice that, see that as a moment of clear presence. You are present. You are here. And you can label your experiences here too. You don't have to get into too much detail, but you can say things like, oh, planning, the future. That's what you're thinking about. Or worry about money, future. Or in remembering, maybe you are memories are coming to mind. Happy times, sad times. Saying remembering. Maybe you're imagining. Say imagining, label it. All right, so take 3 really concentrated, long breaths now. Stay super focused on these 3 breaths. And be curious about the breath. And then when you notice the mind working again, flexible awareness is going to give you permission to pay attention. But you find the breath, you know that you're breathing and that your anchor is always there, that you can begin again. You can pick up the breadcrumbs, retrace your steps. If you notice that there are lots of sounds around you, you can notice the sounds. Some sounds kind of grab you, take you out of the body, out of your internal refuge, and give you information. Sounds give you information about what's outside of the body. And you can notice what the mind does. Do you feel that as an interruption? Are you irritated? Or can you just put it in the background, the sounds? Return to your interior space. It's up to you. You could pay attention to sound. Play with that expansion piece. See how far, what's the furthest away sound you can hear. And then maybe you notice that an emotion arises. Or there's a pain in your knee. Just see the fluidity, the bends in the road, or the path that you take, that awareness takes. And you can even ask, where am I being drawn to? Either deliberately or because it's calling out to me. And so if you like to now, take a deep breath, and we can move into the more expansive, open awareness for a couple of minutes. So here you're not focusing on any particular object. You're just aware of awareness itself. Sort of the background of mind. Noticing that which contains the objects of focus. Space around the breath, space around the thoughts, space around the pain in your knee. So sometimes people describe or it's written about that this wide open, spacious awareness in the broad spectrum is kind of like the blue sky. There are always clouds. Sometimes there aren't clouds, like right now. But that if you go up far enough, you will find the blue sky. Maybe awareness is the sun shining down on or out into the galaxy. Or maybe awareness is even the earth turning. So as the earth turns, it's a different view. So I'm going to bring this part of our meditation to a close, but if you like, you can continue to sit on your own. And I wish you all to be well, to truly know yourselves in this lifetime. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Oftentimes we notice that we are listening to the anger, or maybe the anxiety, or maybe the memory radio station in our minds. You know, we have one station on, tuned to just that station. And what we realize is that kind of all we need to do is change the station. Turn your awareness to something else. And that we might actually notice that there's a more beneficial station that has been airing all this time. Perhaps playing joy, or love, or open-heartedness, or contentment, or resiliency. Connection. All right, so we can now slowly start to bring this meditation practice to an end. But aha, maybe I should say. The good news is that it never really ends. Awareness can continue into the day, but we can still put an ending to this particular practice. Yeah, so all of this in sort of a spirit of playfulness, hopefully, and even asking right now, is awareness still here? Is it still here for you? And if awareness is not here, where would awareness go? Well, namaste. Be well, everyone.